For longtime friends, Alex, Emily, David, and Sarah decided to organize a camping trip to the Dark Forest, a place of legends and eerie tales. They hoped for adventure and fun, unaware of the much darker fate that awaited them. The journey into the woods began joyfully and energetically. The friends joked, sang songs, and took photographs. They chose a cozy spot for their campsite and kindled a fire. The flames burned brightly as they shared spooky stories they had heard about the Dark Forest. However, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the shadows of the forest grew longer, the atmosphere began to shift. The wind started to rustle the leaves, as if something was watching them. As night fell, the friends felt an unsettling presence around them. The sounds of the night seemed louder and more ominous than before. They began to hear strange rustlings and loud sighs, as if the air was filled with unseen entities. Emily dismissed it as her imagination, but deep inside, an indescribable sense of unease lingered. The next morning, they discovered tracks leading further into the forest. Along the path, they encountered strange symbols drawn in blood on the trees. Fear slowly gripped their hearts. Sarah claimed to have seen a shadow moving among the trees, but the others brushed it off. They pressed on into the heart of the forest, ignoring the warnings. As they ventured deeper, suspicion and mistrust began to erode their friendships. They argued about which way to go, and each began to see a potential enemy in the others. When night once again enveloped the forest, the group reluctantly gathered around the campfire. Now, their fear had taken a more tangible form, and they hid from each other, silently watching the darkness. In that horrifying moment when the fire began to dwindle, David vanished. In a panic, the friends searched for him and found his brutally mutilated body. Screams and tears couldn't bring him back. Fear and horror consumed each of them, and they now understood that something sinister lurked within the forest. They realized that something lived within the Dark Forest, something capable of changing its form to pursue and kill them. The group formed a circle, their lanterns flickering in the night, beckoning an unseen force beyond their campfire. They delved into the legends of the forest and discovered that it had long been cursed, now inhabited by malevolent spirits. Hours turned into each other, and fear and despair grew. The group realized they could no longer remain passive. They needed to unravel the forest's mysteries before becoming its victims. They began to study ancient runes found in a cave near their campsite, realizing that only unity and faith in each other could help them survive. Sarah, initially skeptical of mystical beliefs, started seeing things that the others couldn't perceive. She claimed that the forest spirits were trying to convey a warning. Gradually, they began to unveil deeply hidden secrets, and their revelations led them to understand how to confront the evil that surrounded them. With each new discovery, the friends grew closer. They understood that the spirits of the Dark Forest sought revenge for the curse that befell their home. As they unraveled the forest's history, they also found a way to break the curse and free the spirits. However, it wasn't an easy task. Days and nights of trials and dangers passed. They fought not only external threats but also inner demons awakened within each of them. Yet, their faith in each other and their will to survive proved stronger than anything. Finally, after incredible hardships and sacrifices, the friends managed to break the curse and free the spirits of the Dark Forest. Light returned to the woods, and the terrifying presence vanished. They emerged from the forest, weary and drained, but with a sense of victory. The Dark Forest was no longer a mysterious horror. It became a place where they found themselves, their strength, and true friendship. The story of their adventure became a legend, passed down around campfires by new generations. It all began with an inspiring idea to spend the weekend in nature. A group of young friends, consisting of Emily, Mark, Lisa, Jake, and Natalie, decided to escape the hustle and bustle of the city and spend time on one of the most beautiful cliffs in the county. The cliff, known as the Death Cliff, was famous for its picturesque views of a vast valley surrounded by lush vegetation and a tranquil river. Upon arrival, they eagerly set up tents on the very edge of the cliff to enjoy magnificent sunsets and nighttime views of the starry sky. The entire first day passed in a joyful atmosphere. They cooked food over an open fire, shared stories, and laughed until they cried. As night fell, they gathered around the campfire to talk and share plans for the next day. But that is when something strange began. They heard faint, indistinct sounds coming from the darkness of the valley. It was something like a whisper, yet unlike any human voice. The friends' expressions filled with unease, but they tried to brush it off as try. As they finally went to sleep in their tents, the night grew denser. Emily, lying in her tent, heard a sound as if something was scratching against the fabric. She sat up, her frightened gaze fixed on the dark cloth. The scratching became more pronounced, and she felt her heart start to race. Maybe it is just an animal, she thought, trying to reassure herself. But when she mustered the courage to peek out of her tent, she saw only the darkness of the night and the moving branches of trees. The scratching stopped, but fear still echoed in her chest. Meanwhile, in Lisa and Mark's tents, strange sounds also began to emerge. Lisa heard rustling as if something was crawling on the ground around her tent. Mark felt a light breeze and as if something brushed against his hair. He startled, but couldn't he see anything that could have caused such a sensation? With each passing hour, the night grew darker and more mysterious. The noises grew louder, and the shadows became more elusive. The friends became more and more apprehensive and frightened. Natalie began to hear a faint singing, unlike anything she had ever heard before. It seemed as if the singing was coming from beneath the ground, and she couldn't pinpoint the source of the sound. Gradually, they began to realize that the cliff and the valley were not as safe as they had imagined. Their joy at the incredible views of nature gave way to horror in the face of the unknown. They gathered together, sharing their eerie experiences and attempting to make sense of what was happening. Slowly, the picture began to clear. They started researching the history of the cliff and the valley and learned that many years ago, a terrible tragedy occurred here. A group of explorers fell from the cliff to their deaths, and their souls became trapped between worlds. The fear they felt was the result of vengeful spirits seeking to exact revenge on the living for their deaths. The friends realized that they were at the epicenter of this mystical tragedy and had become witnesses to the eternal struggle between the living and the dead. With each passing minute, the situation grew more tense. The friends decided to leave the cliff and the valley, hoping to escape the wrath of the spirits. They began planning their escape, but the spirits were not so easily willing to release their victims. Every attempt to leave turned into a nightmarish pursuit, where shadows and strange sounds haunted them like ghosts of the past. Their struggle continued throughout the night, but by morning, they realized they needed to try something new. They turned to ancient rituals and incantations in the hope of appeasing the vengeful souls. Their final night on the cliff turned into a tense battle between the living and the dead, where faith and friendship became decisive factors. With the first rays of morning sun, the friends realized that the dark nightmare had lifted. The cliff and the valley now seemed peaceful and calm. The sounds and shadows vanished, replaced by the harmony of nature. They believed that their faith and courage had helped them endure this ordeal. As they left the death cliff, they felt a newfound strength uniting them, knowing that they would forever be bound by this strange and terrifying experience.